Following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFN Geek coming to you with a video showing my top 5 least favorite Transformers figures that I purchased for the year 2022. I also have a few announcements to make. Life keeps getting in the way of me recording my reviews, and so unfortunately I have to accept the fact that I will not be able to finish all the reviews I wanted to do for the current year by New Year's Day, which is 2 days from now. But hopefully throughout the month of January, I'll be able to get my reviews finally finished, and hopefully sometime in next month in January of 2023, Wave 1 of Legacy Evolution will be released. So I'm really looking forward to getting those figures added as well. And one last announcement that I wanted to make is that hopefully, if not tonight, tomorrow before New Year's Day, I do want to at least get my list of best Transformers figures for the year 2022 completed. Some of the figures, when I get to that list, I'll show them off inside their boxes because I haven't been able to open them up yet. One, of course, being, well, I won't spoil anything for anybody, but as you can see by the wall of Transformers that's always behind me, I still have quite a few figures in their boxes to review. So with that out of the way, let's get to my top 5 worst Transformers figures. So there's been quite a few M's released and quite a few fantastic Transformers figures released in the year 2022, but out of a sea of success, there have been a few duds released, and so this is why. And normally I generally enjoy all the Transformers figures I collect, but there's been a few released this year that, yeah, that's why in the thumbnail of the video and the image I took, I gave a thumbs down. And so here are the top 5 worst Transformers figures of 2022 for me. At number 5 is Buzzworthy Heroic Maximal Dinobot. Now, there's nothing wrong with this figure itself, but the thing is, when I was a kid and I was collecting Transformers, there were some that I collected just for the sake of buying them and adding to my collection, but I didn't get any direct satisfaction or enjoyment having the figure in my collection, and that's what Buzzworthy Dinobot is. He's actually a straight-up repaint of the Kingdom Beast Wars Grimlock figure, having the head sculpt that has the mouth plate, which is based, I believe, on the original Beast Wars Dinobot action figure versus the head sculpt that Kingdom Dinobot had based on his animation model. And basically, if you have a Kingdom Beast Wars Grimlock that came in the 2-pack with Earth Mode Mirage, then pretty much you're only getting this figure just to have Kingdom Dinobot looking like his original Beast Wars action figure released in 1996. The main reason I got this figure was because when I visited my local Target store a few months ago, it was the only Transformers figure they had that I hadn't yet added to my Transformers collection. This is actually the 3rd copy of Buzzworthy Dinobot that I added twice before I returned the figure to Target when I saw them having other Transformers figures in stock that I could use the money I used on this to get those figures instead. And the last time I decided to just get it just to have another Beast Wars Dinobot figure in my collection. So yeah, I bought him just to get him, and it's very rare when I do that these days. I tried it with money now being having to be directed to other parts of my life. I've now more than in previous years. I don't buy Transformers figures just for the sake of buying them anymore, and so hopefully Buzzworthy Dinobot will be the last figure in which I do that. Now, at number 4, I was originally going to do these figures separately, but I decided to include them together because I found another Transformers figure that made my worst top 5 list. But at number 4 on the worst Transformers of 2022, it's a tie between Legacy Wild Rider and Legacy Dead End. Dead End, infamously, the back of his vehicle mode can't hold together in place, and his robot mode is nothing too desirable. It's very mediocre despite G1 accuracy. It's the same with Wild Rider, and a lot of Transformers fans and collectors have stated openly that they hate the way Wild Rider's robot mode transforms, especially his backpack. And even here on the product photo, it shows the alternate transformation where the backpack doesn't fold out and it stays transformed into the entire hood of his vehicle mode. I'd also include Legacy Breakdown, but he hasn't been released yet. Breakdown's being released in Wave 1 of Legacy Evolution, and originally Breakdown was slated to be in Wave 4 of Legacy Year 1, but that wave ultimately ended up getting cancelled, and so Breakdown's going to be the final Legacy Wave 1 figure released along with the Legacy Evolution Wave 1 figures. Breakdown's a retool of Wild Rider, and people who have managed to get a hold of Legacy Breakdown early and have already done reviews on him have said that their opinions on Breakdown are no different than Wild Rider. So the Legacy Stunticon started off strong with Drag Strip collectors enjoyed Drag Strip and how fantastic a figure he was. Motormaster's a fairly fantastic Commander class Transformers figure, and a lot of collectors enjoy Motormaster's transformation, especially into Menasor. But the other Stunticons, Wild Rider, Dead End, and also Breakdown. Now, Hasbro and Takara missed the mark on designing these figures, so unfortunately, 3/5 of Legacy Menasor are considered meh Transformers figures by most fans and collectors. And at number 3, I'm reaching over for it because I forgot to grab it. I apologize. But at number 3 is my most recent Transformers purchase, and I actually found this figure yesterday at my local Rite Aid pharmacy store. And at number 3 of the worst Transformers figures released in 2022 is the Transformers Authentics Bravo RC figure. So even though she's still inside her box, the few reviews I've seen of collectors who got a hold of her, just like the other Authentics Bravo figures, they say there's nothing special about RC at all. She's very difficult to stand in robot mode due to her having hollowed out legs. It's even shown how hollow her legs are there on the product photo of her robot mode on the back of the box. Pretty much the only thing in this version of RC has going for her is that she's the first Authentics Bravo figure that actually has a laser gun, an accessory piece included with her. And this might ultimately end up being the worst RC figure to ever be released, even though on the artwork of her on the top of the box they're using the artwork from her, I believe it's the Studio Series RC figure, or it might even be Earthrise RC. Unfortunately, this is, I can't even describe it. That's how terrible a figure it is. I'm hoping to do a review of that soon. One of my subscribers told me that I shouldn't even bother to do a review of Authentics RC, but I want to do a review just to show how terrible of a figure she is, just like all the other Authentics Bravo figures. Now the figures that made numbers 1 and 2, I was torn on deciding which figure would be number 1 and number 2, but after all things considered, I figured the figure that made number 2, main reason why it's even on this list is just because of a horrible QC issue that my copy of this figure has. It's not a universal problem. Most fans and collectors who've gotten this figure haven't had this problem that I have with it. And this figure actually would have made my top 10 best list of the year, but because of the QC issue on my copy, it may end up making the worst list. So, at number 2 of my worst Transformers figures of 2022 is the Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Fossilizer Master Dominus. Master Dominus had the potential of becoming my favorite of the Fossilizer Transformers because of his mostly black at gold and gray paint job, and the fact that he's the first and currently only fossilizer to have a fossilized mammal instead of a dinosaur for his fossil mode. And I believe this is the first ever fossilized, the first ever skeletal mammoth that a Transformers figure has had for an alt mode. I know the first ever mammoth Transformer was the Takara exclusive Big Convoy figure from Beast Wars Neo, but yeah, the reason why Master Dominus made number 2 on my worst list of the year is because of this horrible QC issue right there. If you can't see it, I'll turn it around. So yeah, my copy of Master Dominus, he actually came with 2 right front feet instead And I've seen plenty of photos where these are supposed to be mirror images of each other, so how in the world this individual copy of Master Dominus that I got a hold of ended up having the QC issue of having 2 copies of the same front leg, I honestly cannot say. But yeah, lining it up, putting it in its proper place, this is how my copy of Master Dominus came. How in the world this happened at the factory, I honestly don't know. Having 2 copies of the same front leg, it doesn't really affect his transformation, and it doesn't really affect how he stands and poses in mammoth mode. But when you get to robot mode, having the joint facing the opposite direction, his arm ends up bending, his left side arm ends up bending the same way as his right side arm, and it really does affect the posing of him, especially due to how it's shaped. It's not the lower leg egg is not symmetrical, so that is really disappointing that this copy of my copy of Master Dominus has this QC issue. I've been debating about whether or not if I should get a duplicate copy of Master Dominus or not. It all depends. But for the price that Master Dominus is currently going for on eBay by himself, he's currently going for between $30 to $40, and that's almost the same price he goes brand new in the box with Wreckin' Rule Leadfoot. So for me personally, right now, just to get a second copy of this figure, just to get the correct leg, it's not really worth it for me. So yeah, unfortunately, Master Dominus, he would have been my favorite fossilizer, but because of this QC issue of having 2 right side feet, he's now become my least favorite of the fossilizers. Now, Master Dominus made number 2 on the list because of a QC issue, but the figure that made number 1, and the QC issues with this figure aren't because of having the incorrect part attached to it. This figure is just a terrible figure, and in my opinion, this is the worst transfigure of the Transformers Legacy line. And so I present to you the dud of Transformers Legacy Year 1. The worst figure of 2022 is Transformers Legacy Skullgrin. Yes, Hasbro and Takara Tomy had a lot of potential releasing the Pretenders in deluxe class size. Apologies for clearing my throat. But yeah, Skullgrin, they really missed the mark with him. All the parts on Skullgrin that are white, his horns on his head, in fact his entire robot mode head, and his sword guns, they are made out of rubbery plastic. And on my copy of Skullgrin, his sword guns, they were warped, they were at an angle, they were not straight. And when you get him to his tank mode, he does have treads sculpted on the back area of the tank, but there's no wheels under there. He doesn't have anything to move around on. The pegs that keep his tank mode together are very tiny, and they like to pry apart, and a lot of friction. Skullgrin relies on a lot of friction to hold his tank mode together, is what I was trying to say. And overall, Skullgrin has become my least favorite of the 3 Pretenders that we got in Legacy Year 1. I enjoy Iguanus and Bombburst a lot more than I do Skullgrin. And I was almost going to pass on him entirely since I didn't really like the look of his robot mode. Skullgrin's robot mode is based on his inner Pretender robot with the exception of the head and his shoulder pads, and also his pelvis being based on the outer monstrous shell. And it's a really horrible fusion of his G1 inner robot and Pretender shell. Now, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that Hasbro and Takara Tomy were going to do what they did with Iguanus and Bombburst, where the robot mode was based more on the Pretender monster shell, and the vehicle mode will be based on the inner robot. But Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided to sort of do the opposite with Skullgrin, where the robot mode is based primarily on his inner robot, with just the exception of the head, shoulders, and pelvis being based on the Pretender shell. And and then of course the issue with the horns, and this is a universal problem with every copy of Skullgrin. The horns warp inside the box. the pegs that hold him together become deformed, and his horns constantly want to pop off. So yeah, if you see Skullgrin and you're hesitant about getting him, he is an easy pass. I highly recommend avoiding him if you don't have any emotional attachment to him and if you don't like the overall way that he looks. But thankfully, if Skullgrin is one of the only duds of the Legacy line, and if Skullgrin is as terrible as Legacy figures can be, then hopefully next year in Legacy Evolution we will not see any Transformers figures try and pass Skullgrin on the title of worst Transformers Legacy figure. So thank you guys all so much. This has been the TFN Geek, and hopefully, as the year 2023 comes, I will finally get around to finishing my list of Transformers reviews that I have to do. Hopefully I'll get my list of best Transformers figures out either tonight or tomorrow. Or please wish me luck on getting that completed. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you to all my subscribers for your continued support. And until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.